Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, Cohost, Providence, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio. Go to jimmydore.com for tickets. The New York Times has finally admitted that everybody lied to us about COVID. And Matt Orfella caught this. He says, ladies and gentlemen, I give you New York Times COVID-19 reporter. Someday, this is from 2021, someday we will stop talking about the lab leak theory and maybe even admit its racist roots. So that's right. It's racist to say Chinese have labs, I guess. And that's why Jon Stewart got in trouble with his friend group and had to atone for his racist lab leak theory by hanging a medal on a Nazi. And her name is Aporva? Is that short for Apor vagina? What is that?
It can't be good.
Come on. So that's 2021. Remember when facts were racists?
Yeah, facts were racist. My best friend, I said that to my best friend, and I said, did you hear about this lab? And she's like, that's racist. It's racist to say that. Do you see how much anti-Asian sentiment there is out there? Yeah, because the news puts it on purpose. But anyway.
Facts are racist. So here's the headline from the New York Times. We were badly misled about the event that changed our lives. No, we were lied to. We weren't misled. And this, even though they're admitting all the lies, they don't call them lies. They call them, being misled. Wait till you see it.
We didn't know and stuff like that.
Wait till we get into this article. Hopefully will piss you off. A miracle has happened. The New York Times ran an op-ed acknowledging not only that the COVID virus originated in the lab, but the government officials and scientists conspired to keep the substantiating evidence secret. The lab leak theory was censored on social media because of pressure from the administration. We shouldn't have done it. Okay, just so everybody knows that. So here's from I'll read some of it from the article, right? So in 2020, when people started speculating that a laboratory accident might have been the spark that started the COVID-19 pandemic, they were treated like kooks and cranks. Many public health officials and prominent scientists dismissed the idea as a conspiracy theory, insisting that the virus had emerged from animals in a seafood market in Wuhan, China. And when a nonprofit called Eco Health Alliance, which is a CIA cutout, lost a grant because it was planning to conduct risky research into bat viruses with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, research that, if conducted with lax safety standards, could have resulted in a dangerous pathogen leaking out into the world. No fewer than 77 Nobel laureates and 31 scientific societies lined up to defend that organization. Mm-hmm. So when the Wuhan research was the Wuhan research was totally safe. And the pandemic was definitely caused by natural transmission. It certainly seemed like consensus. This is the New York Times talking.
Yeah.
We have since learned, however, that to promote the appearance of consensus, some officials and scientists hid or understated crucial facts, misled at least one reporter, meaning they lied, orchestrated campaigns of supposedly independent voices, and even compared notes about how to hide their communications in order to keep the public from hearing the whole story. Yeah. And as for the Wuhan laboratory's research, the details that have since emerged show that the safety precautions might have been terrifyingly lax. Might have been?
I heard they were like a dental office, but anyway.
This is...
Yeah.
Why haven't we learned our lesson? Maybe because it's hard to admit that this research is risky now, and to take the requisite steps to keep us safe without also admitting it was always risky. Mm-hmm. And perhaps we were misled on purpose. Perhaps. Even though we have tons of evidence that they were lying to us.
Yeah.
This New York Times reporter still says perhaps.
Right.
Take the real story behind two very influential publications that quite early in the pandemic cast the lab leak theory as baseless. By the way, this writer is pretending that she wasn't in on it. Right?
Or that she didn't report what she knew at the time. Because if I knew, she knew.
Right. I knew it.
You knew it.
How did I know it? How did Joe Rogan know it?
We read something.
That's right. It's kind of like when Jake Tapper wrote a book on the Biden dementia cover-up. That's what this is. The first organization was a March 2020 paper in the Journal of Nature Medicine, which was written by 5 prominent scientists and declared that no laboratory-based scenario for the pandemic virus was plausible. But we later learned through congressional subpoenas of their Slack conversations that while the scientists publicly said the scenario was implausible, privately, many of the authors considered the scenario to be not just plausible, but likely. So Dr. Fauci and those scientists who wrote that article, the proximal orange, they were lying. They were lying to us. And anybody who questioned their lies was called a racist.
And your career was obliterated, and he sent those emails of how to squash this information, which have been covered, like by Jim Jordan and those Congress hearings and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. And Peter Daszak, the guy of Echo Health Alliance, was part of the WHO investigation into the lab. They sent 6 people into that lab, sent them in there. They looked around, and you know what they said? Nothing to see here. And you know what the news reported? Lab leak unlikely. And that's what was reported.
So it's weird that I knew this 5 years before the New York Times. Isn't that weird?
And me. And I didn't even have an editorial job. And I read it. And then when I looked into it, I saw other articles and proper papers confirming this. You know, that virus didn't even come from Wuhan. That type of bat is in the Yunnan province, which is 1,000 miles south. They don't even have that type of bat. So
one of the authors of that paper, the evolutionary biologist Christian Anderson, she wrote in her Slack message, the lab escape version of this is so friggin' likely to have happened because they were already doing this type of work and that the molecular data is fully consistent with that scenario. That's what the scientists were actually saying. But they were saying something completely different publicly. Fauci was lying to you. The New York Times was lying to you. The Lancet was lying to you. Yeah. Nature magazine was lying to you.
Yeah.
They were lying to you. They weren't misleading.
It's so unbelievable, though.
And still nobody's upset that they were lied to.
Nobody's upset.
Nobody I know who votes Democrat is upset that they were lied to about COVID, the biggest thing that ever happened.
I still don't understand why you don't have mainstream doctors on your show.
I had a guy come on my show and said, Jim, you should bring more mainstream doctors on.
Like who? Peter Hotez?
You're right. Spooked, the authors reached out for advice to Jeremy Farrar, now the chief scientist at the WHO.
Oh.
In his book, he revealed he acquired a burner phone.
Oh, what is he?
And he arranged meetings with those scientists who were writing that paper to lie to you. So this guy at the WHO, he got a burner phone, and then he arranged meetings for those scientists with people like Francis Collins, who was the head of the NIH, and people like Anthony Fauci. He got a burner phone.
Like people are using Slack and getting burner phones?
Burner phones.
What they're doing? This is what people do who, like the Ashley Madison people, right? Like this is what people do who want affairs, to have affairs.
I think every trusted authority in the health industry should be caught using a burner phone. Nothing says integrity more like a burner phone. And the New York Times still refers to it as perhaps they were misleading us on purpose. They were using burner phones.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were saying
they don't want to get busted. It's clear as day.
That's as clear as day.
Yeah.
Documents obtained through public records request by the nonprofit U.S. Right to Know show that the scientists ultimately decided to move ahead with the paper. So they ultimately decided to lie. That's what I can rewrite that for this writer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So operating behind the scenes, Farrar reviewed their draft and suggested to the authors that they rule out the lab leak theory even more directly, and then they complied. So they just knowingly lied. So again,
Right.
You think that scientists and doctors have some kind of integrity? They can be bought just like anybody else. Just like anybody else, they're bought off. And so what this woman doesn't write in this article is that Dr. Fauci gave them like $8 or $9 million in research grants, and then they completely flipped their story.
Right. Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anderson later testified to Congress that he had simply become convinced that the lab leak, while theoretically possible, was not plausible. Later, chat logs obtained by Congress show the paper's lead authors discussing how to mislead this guy, Donald McNeil Jr., who was reporting on the pandemic's origin for the New York Times. So they all got together. Hey, how do we lie to the New York Times? This is Dr. Fauci, all those people. So as to throw him off the track about the possibility of a lab leak. Wow, what a bombshell. I mean, it was a bombshell when I reported it 2 years ago.
You've known this for a long time. We've known this. I've known this for a long time.
But good news, Anita, and to all my liberal friends, you have permission to believe the truth about the lab leak now, because the New York Times is saying it's okay.
Yeah, in their very gentle way.
Yes.
And the way that they phrase it, that is going to elicit the response. Hey, well, you know, it could have been. And so this is what happened. And so then people go, oh, and nobody goes, you made me do what? You made me take this injection and now I have and I'm not supposed to be upset about it. And I couldn't go to my grandma's funeral. You know, all those things, right? That people still are not. What's it going to take to make you upset?
So here's Peter Daszak.
Yeah.
So he's the very evil guy, and I'm going to tell you why he's evil. Thanks to public document requests by the U.S. Right to Know, the public later learned that behind the scenes, this guy, Peter Daszak, EcoHealth's president, had drafted and circulated the letter while strategizing on how to hide his tracks and telling the signatories that it will not be identifiable as coming from any one organization or person. So they wanted to push this theory that the virus didn't come from the lab that they were funding. He wanted that so he wanted to push this theory that it didn't come from the lab and then hide his tracks that they were the one behind pushing it. That guy, Peter Daszak, criminal.
That's like having an affair and then having a shower. I want to cover my tracks, right? Okay.
The Lancet later published an addendum disclosing Daszak's conflict of interest as a collaborator of the Wuhan lab, but the journal did not retract the letter. They never retracted the proximal.
Their whole job is to publish proper literature in a journal.
And they had assistance. Thanks to more public records requests and congressional subpoenas, the public learned that David Morens, a senior scientific advisor to Anthony Fauci at the National Institute of Health, wrote to Daszak that he had learned how to make, quote, emails disappear, especially emails about pandemic origins. So Fauci's right-hand man was telling Daszak, don't worry, I figured out how, we all know how to make emails disappear, except we found it.
Yes.
We're all smart enough to know to never have smoking guns, and if we did, we wouldn't put them in emails, and if we found them, we'd delete them. These are the scientists running the COVID program.
But Jimmy, okay. Is there more with this?
Yeah, there's a little more to this.
Okay, then I'll hold.
So here's how the New York Times then tries to soft sell this and bullshit you. It's not so what they just described was unbelievable criminal evil actions taken by the top scientists handling COVID. Anthony Fauci, Collins, Daszak, and the people who wrote that paper. It's not hard to imagine. Just listen to this. It's not hard to imagine how the attempt to squelch legitimate debate might have started. Some of the loudest proponents of the lab leak theory weren't just earnestly making inquiries. They were acting in terrible faith, using the debate over pandemic origins to attack legitimate beneficial science, to inflame. So the people who were right, she's still slandering. The people who were right about the lab leak theory, she's still saying they're horrible people. That's what she's doing.
She's saying they're acting in terrible faith.
The woman who wrote this article for the New York Times is saying that the people who were right about COVID are still lying, horrible people acting in bad faith. Isn't that amazing?
To inflame public opinion. Bull.
Or maybe they were just trying to get to the truth, which is what the New York Times does 5 years later. For scientists and public health officials, circling the wagons and vilifying anyone who dared to dissent might have seemed like a reasonable defense strategy. What? You mean the liars and criminals are the reasonable ones?
Right.
The people slandering and discrediting people seeking the truth, they're the reasonable ones, but not the people who were
being vilified.
Yes. That's also why it might be tempting for those officials or the organizations they represent to avoid looking too closely at mistakes they made. They weren't mistakes. They weren't. They were lies. That's why they had to delete their emails. Yeah. That's why they had to use burner phones, because they were up to a criminal conspiracy.
Yeah.
And while trying to do such a hard... So that's also why it might be tempting for those officials or the organizations they represent to avoid looking too closely at mistakes they made. And at the ways that, while trying to do such a hard job... I mean, a hard job of covering up their lies?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we don't want to look too closely.
That's why they might have withheld relevant information and even they did. It's not might have. They did.
They did.
They lied.
They did.
And the person who wrote this for the New York Times is a garbage person.
Yes, because she's trying to.
Because she's still trying. She's still trying to mislead you.
Yes.
She's misleading you in an article about how we were misled.
She's shaping your opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's spinning.
Yeah.
Such self-scrutiny is especially uncomfortable now, as an unvaccinated child has died of measles. So she's pushing the propaganda about measles.
Yeah.
Can you look up see if that kid was vaccinated? I bet that kid was vaccinated. The measles death, see if that kid was vaccinated. And anti-vaccine nonsense is being pumped out by the top of the federal government. So she's still doing it.
She's still doing it.
The nonsense is the hysteria that's surrounding the measles.
Yeah.
That's the nonsense. But
nonsense. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the nonsense is perhaps maybe what we've been told about vaccines our whole lives is not really the truth of the matter. Because I believe it kind of died out in 1968 because of good hygiene or better diet or something. We didn't need this damn vaccine, did we, in the first place? And I think we've been led to believe it's the one thing you can't question. Don't question anything you can't question is the thing you should be questioning.
Well, I have to correct you, Anita.
Sorry.
The vaccines are totally safe and effective and very needed. If you don't have a vaccine, you're going to have measles.
You're going to have measles, and you'll get to stay home like the Brady Bunch kids did or whatever.
So I just have to correct you on that.
But I do want to say you know how everybody goes, oh, polio, and look at what it did to polio. I have somebody in my family that has polio, and my mom said they got the polio vaccine when they were little girls.
That's anecdotal. Here's my last slide. But a clumsy, misguided effort like this didn't just fail, it backfired. You think? You mean lying at every turn, using burner phones, deleting emails, bribing scientists to tell lies? You mean that might have backfired?
You think you might have got caught?
It was a misguided effort. No, it wasn't. It was guided.
They didn't know.
They did it on purpose. Mm-hmm. You piece of garbage New York Times op-ed writer. These half-truths and strategic deceptions made it easier for people with the worst... So again, someone else is worse than these people she's describing. There's someone else worse than than Fauci and Collins and Daszak and all the people who lied to us about COVID. Other people are worse. They have the worst motives. Well, what motives did they have, the people who fucking lied to us? What was their motives? Their
Yeah.
motives was to pull off a criminal conspiracy.
But beyond, yeah.
These half-truths and strategic deceptions made it easier for people with the worst motives to appear trustworthy while discrediting important institutions where many earnestly labor in the public interest.
Oh, oh.
Look who, and this is here's the garbage person who wrote that.
Zeynep Tufecki?
Whatever
her name is.
Look at the end of the article, there's a fun word scramble.
What is this? Sudoku or something? Her name?
Did a cat walk across the keyboard or something? What happened?
Her parents were drunk and they just typed on the keyboard and just no. I don't know. That could be. I'm not trying to make fun of her name, but that's a garbage article. You're absolutely right.
Garbage article.
And what is in it for her to publish an article like that?
Because
what you get your stupid
because
paycheck?
she's a part of the establishment. That's why. That's why.
But who cares now? Move on. Go to Substack. Look at Mike Taibbi. Write something good.
She's there to let you know that the New York Times is still lying to you. We're never going to stop. Even when we tell you some of the truth, we're still going to cover it up with bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what she's doing. Show her again. Show
Sugar-coated all that. Yeah.
That's who that is.
It's a sugarcoating, one of the worst things that have ever happened to humanity. And the thing I can't figure out still when I hear you talk about this, I've heard you say many times, people don't give a shit. And I feel the same way, that people do not get angry about this for the injured and for everything that happened. I didn't take it, so I didn't get injured, but people did. And you have every right to be saying this. And what the hell was the government doing this to people?
They lied
Is
about
it money.
She's not upset. This woman's not. She's still angry at the people who got it right.
Yeah, she's still angry.
She's not angry at. Yeah, she's not angry at Fauci and Collins and Daszak and the entire media. They even lied to the New York Times. So she's not mad. She's not angry at them. She's angry at the people.
She's not angry that information makes her a shitty writer and shitty reporter.
That's right.
She should be angry that she wrote that. She should be mad at herself.
That's right.
Yeah. And with all the hygiene that we have, I mean, I don't know if this is going on YouTube or where, but I am still astounded that it could transmit across the world the way it did, coming from that lab.
Correct.
I think, did they spray it? Did they spray it in the subway? What happened? I think a lot of this was psychological. What happened, and it was
we now know that the fatality rate of the virus was minuscule. It was less than 0.5%.
Yeah.
So it had a 99.7% survivability.
So even when they made it in the lab, they didn't even make it as lethal as they should have. Why don't you just friggin' take us out if you want to take us out?
It was hype.
It was hype. It was suggestion. It was psychological control.
Yep. And she's not mad that they lied to you about transmission. She's not mad that they lied to you about contraction. She's not mad they lied to you about the fatality of the virus. She's not mad that they lied to you about herd immunity, natural immunity, lockdowns, masks. She's not mad about it tonight. She's still angry at the people who, like us, who got it right from the beginning.
That's right.
And I'm a C student and I got it right. She's a doctorate.
Yeah. I mean, I got it right, and it just fell into my lap because I just opened my eyes and went, "This isn't right. Let me look into this." And I did, and I wasn't even a reporter. You're a comedian, and now you've started this huge news podcast because of it. Because these buggers are not telling you the real deal.
Still,
and anyway, they're completely incompetent. These people at the lab, you know what I mean?
It's a slimy article, slimy person. The whole just slimy.
Yeah. It is slimy. It is dripping it in this kind of syrup, this manipulative syrup to go, hey, it wasn't so bad. And
they were doing the right thing. You couldn't understand why they were just misguided. No, they weren't misguided. They were just like you. You know exactly what you're doing. You're
misguided
right.
To that degree.
Yeah.
No way in hell. Because in Canada, we changed laws. We have something called the Infant Act, which that a healthcare practitioner can give it to a baby if they think that the baby has agreed. So don't even tell me there were never any mistakes being made every step of the way. The American government, the Canadian government, and all around the world, they knew what they were doing.
They were lying.
Why? They were lying. Why? For what gain? Is still a mystery to me. It's still something I can't completely explain. Is it greed? Is it this?
Well, it definitely was. At least half of it was greed, if not more. Of course, it was hundreds of billions of dollars to big pharma.
I know, but like such lethal greed. Like this is what's going on.
They
like,
do war for money, Anita. Come on.
I know that. I know. Like they do. Oh God, they'll look at fentanyl. They'll kill you for fentanyl.
That's right.
Fentanyl is also a bioweapon. You take that, you die, but no one cares. And they'll drip that into the drugs. So if somebody's doing cocaine, they'll die. Like they don't care if they kill you.
They don't. That's exactly the same people. The same people who, that's the WEF. It's those people, the handful of billionaires that run everything and do all the wars and slaughter people. They don't care. They don't care what they did. They don't care how many people got injured. They don't care how many people lost their jobs. They don't care how many families they split up because of this. They don't care about anything. I lost a majority of my friends in Hollywood because I was telling the truth about this. And they'll never admit that they got it wrong. They'll never. I can forgive them for being wrong about COVID, but they will never forgive me for being right about COVID.
I know if they came up to you and said, Jimmy, oh my God, like I really, really got caught up and I feel deceived. I just want to say thank you for what you were trying to tell me. I can see it now.
Yeah.
But no, they don't do that. They double down, triple down because they got to go safe and effective. What are you going to do? And that's why you can't have a cocktail party now with your Hollywood friends. It's too awkward.
Yeah. It's okay though. It's all right. They were, those people also garbage. And I'm, in a sense, I'm glad it got revealed.
It got revealed. But God, the psychosis is deep, because there are people that you like.
A lot of people said silly things around COVID. I just wish that they would have, apologized for it. That's all.
Me too. See the light. Get out of the dark side. Look at what happened. And you what's it going to take? What do we got to slap you upside? What's got to happen for you to wake up? What more needs to happen that you don't see? The
people who call themselves, anti-establishment truth tellers they're never going to tell the truth. They don't even want to know this information. They don't even want to know. I bet you won't even read that article. They don't want to know anything. It's kind of amazing. All right, Anita, it's been great talking to you. Great catching up with you. It's always great to see you.
Up with you. It's so great to see you. I really, really love and appreciate your whole team.
Right back. Right back at you, Anita. Everybody check out your YouTube show, Anita K.
Yes.
Anita K on YouTube. Everybody check it out. You do great work. You lost your job for speaking up at a news agency about them sticking to journalistic integrity, and they wouldn't, and they fired you for it. So you really showed a lot of courage. You always do. Great work. And everybody check out your YouTube show. All right, Anita, we got to say goodbye.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you. See you soon.
The good work. Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, Cohost, Providence, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio. Go to jimmydore.com for tickets.